The forgotten edge, the warning came at dawn, ship time, when the artificial lights of Station Omega flickered to life above the endless void. Commander Alex Stone stood before the main viewport, watching the dying red star that had been humanity's neighbor for 50 years. Its light cast everything in shades of blood and shadow. "Sir, priority transmission from the Galactic Council." Lieutenant Ben Reed's voice cut through the quiet hum of the command center. Alex turned from the viewport. The holographic display materialized between them, showing the familiar symbol of the Council, 3 interlocked circles representing the galaxy's dominant powers. But today, the message bore urgent red markers. "Play it." The hologram shifted, revealing Ambassador Crix of the Vrex Dominion. His reptilian features were grim, his golden eyes cold. "Attention all frontier settlements. The Galactic Council hereby issues Evacuation Order 77 Alpha. Military conflict between the Vrex Dominion, Keth Confederacy, and now Republic is imminent. All minor species must withdraw from contested regions immediately." Alex exchanged glances with his senior staff. Dr. Emma Cross, the station's chief scientist, raised an eyebrow. Engineer Tom Walsh simply shook his head. "Minor species," Tom muttered. 50 years, and they still think we're harmless." The transmission continued. "Council evacuation vessels will arrive at your coordinates in 72 hours. Prepare for immediate relocation to designated safe zones." "This is not optional." The hologram flickered out, leaving the command center in relative darkness. Outside, the red star pulsed like a dying heart. "Status report," Alex said quietly. Lieutenant Reed consulted his displays. "Long-range sensors show massive fleet movements. The Vrex have mobilized their entire 5th and 7th battle groups. That's over 2 million ships. The Keth are moving their siege fleets from the core worlds. The now Republic has activated their reserve armadas. Total forces? Conservative estimate? 8 to 10 million warships across all 3 empires." Dr. Cross let out a low whistle. "The biggest war in galactic history, and they want us to run and hide." Alex walked to the tactical display, watching the red dots that marked enemy positions. 3 massive empires, each controlling hundreds of star systems, each commanding technology that could crack planets. For centuries, they had maintained an uneasy peace. Now, something had shattered that balance. What started this? He asked. Reed pulled up intelligence reports. Resource disputes in the Kepler Nebula. The Vrex claim ancient territorial rights. The Keth say their mining colonies were attacked. The Nal insist they were defending trade routes. The usual, Tom said. Everyone wants the same piece of space, and everyone thinks they deserve it more than the others. Alex studied the tactical display more carefully. The 3 empires were positioning for a conflict that would span dozens of star systems. Billions of lives hung in the balance, and humanity, dismissed as a minor species clinging to the galaxy's forgotten edge, was expected to simply step aside. "Sir," Dr. Cross said softly, "there's something else. Energy readings around our outer colonies have been unusual." "Unusual how?" "Fluctuations in the quantum field. Minor at first, but growing stronger. It's almost like," she paused, choosing her words carefully, "like something is waking up." Alex nodded slowly. He had felt it too, though he hadn't mentioned it to anyone. A subtle shift in the fabric of space around human settlements. Equipment that worked better than it should. Sensors that detected things they weren't designed to find. Small signs that something was changing. The intercom crackled to life. "Commander Stone to the observatory deck. Priority Alpha." Alex made his way through the station's corridors, past the quarters where human families lived their quiet lives. Children played in common areas, their laughter echoing off metal walls. Elderly couples tended small gardens in the hydroponics bays. Young adults worked at consoles, monitoring systems that kept their small corner of the galaxy running smoothly. They looked peaceful, harmless, exactly as humanity had appeared for the past 50 years. The observatory deck housed the station's most sensitive instruments. Captain Jake Morrison, the station's military commander, was waiting beside the main telescope array. "Show me," Alex said. Jake activated the long-range scanners. The display filled with images from across human space, dozens of settlements scattered among asteroids and small planets, mining operations that barely registered on galactic economic charts, research stations that studied phenomena the major empires had long since forgotten. "Watch the energy signatures," Jake said quietly. At first, Alex saw nothing unusual. Then, gradually, he began to notice patterns. Subtle distortions in space-time around human installations. Gravitational anomalies that shouldn't exist. And beneath it all, a faint resonance that seemed to pulse in harmony across all human territories. How long has this been building? Months, maybe years. It's been so gradual that our sensors barely registered it at first. Alex felt a familiar weight settle on his shoulders. The weight of knowledge that couldn't be shared. The burden of secrets that had shaped humanity's existence for half a century. "Evacuation ships will be here in 3 days, he said finally. "Yes, sir. And the Council expects us to simply leave everything behind. Abandon our homes, our research, our lives. That's what minor species do when major empires go to war." Alex turned back to the viewport, where the dying star continued its slow dance with eternity. Somewhere beyond that fading light, 3 of the galaxy's greatest powers were preparing to tear each other apart. Fleets that could sterilize worlds were moving into position. Technologies that could reshape solar systems were being readied for war. They expected humanity to run. "Send a message to all human settlements," Alex said quietly. "Emergency Protocol Omega. Full activation." Jake's eyes widened. "Sir, are you sure?" "I'm sure." Alex's voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. 50 years of hiding. 50 years of being underestimated. 50 years of preparation. And if the Council demands an explanation? Alex smiled, and for just a moment, something flickered in his eyes, something that might have been ancient fire, or perhaps starlight from dimensions yet unexplored. "Tell them we decline their generous offer of evacuation. Humanity will remain on the frontier." As he spoke, the energy readings around human space spiked again, stronger this time. Throughout the galaxy, 3 empires prepared for the war that would reshape everything. They had no idea what they had awakened in the depths of forgotten space. The red star pulsed once more, and in its dying light, humanity began to stir from its long slumber. Asterisk echoes of Terradier. Emma Cross descended into the depths of Station Omega, past levels that didn't appear on any official schematics. The elevator shaft continued downward through solid rock, carved by mining lasers decades ago, but modified for purposes the Galactic Council could never imagine. Level -7 was officially listed as storage inactive. In reality, it housed humanity's greatest secret. The laboratory stretched out before her like a cathedral of forbidden science. Crystalline structures grew from floor to ceiling, pulsing with soft blue light. Machinery hummed quietly, processing equations that defied conventional physics. And at the center of it all stood the memorial wall, a black stone surface inscribed with a single word, Terra. "You're early," said a voice from the shadows. Dr. Marcus Webb emerged from behind a bank of quantum computers, his weathered face creased with concern. He had been old when Earth died. Now, 50 years later, he was ancient. But his mind remained sharp as a blade. "Emergency Protocol Omega has been activated," Emma said simply. Marcus nodded slowly. "So, the time has finally come." They stood together before the memorial wall, remembering the world that had given humanity its first taste of void energy. The calculations had seemed perfect. The tests had been promising. But when they activated the Terra generator, the results exceeded every prediction. Asterisk. Earth hadn't exploded. It had simply folded. Space-time itself had collapsed inward, taking the planet and most of its population into dimensions that human language couldn't describe. Only a few million survivors had escaped in emergency ships, carrying with them the knowledge of what had gone wrong and the determination to make it right. The refugees from Colony 7 arrived this morning, Marcus said, activating a holographic display. That makes 37 settlements that have confirmed protocol activation. Emma studied the data. Across human space, families were saying goodbye to the lives they had known. Children who had grown up believing they were part of a peaceful mining community were learning that their parents were the survivors of a cosmic catastrophe. Young adults who had spent their lives maintaining simple equipment were discovering that their tools could bend the laws of physics. Any resistance? Some. Colony 12 wants to accept evacuation. They think we're being reckless. They might be right. Marcus smiled grimly. Emma, we watched our homeworld disappear into a void we created. Reckless is what we do best. The laboratory's main display activated, showing a real-time view of galactic space. 3 massive empires were positioning their fleets, preparing for a war that would reshape the balance of power. The Vrex Dominion claimed 1,000 worlds, their technology built on conquest and domination. The Keth Confederacy controlled the galaxy's major trade routes, their ships powered by engines that could burn out stars. The Now Republic commanded the most advanced weapons in known space, capable of reducing entire planets to cosmic dust. And they considered humanity too insignificant to notice. Captain Morrison's reconnaissance mission should be reporting soon, Emma said. As if summoned by her words, a new hologram materialized Captain Jake Morrison, broadcasting from somewhere deep in Vrex space. His face was tense, but his voice remained steady. Phantom 1 reporting. I'm currently observing the Vrex 7th Battle Group from a distance of 50,000 kilometers. They can't detect us. Emma felt a surge of satisfaction. The phase shift technology had taken 30 years to perfect, combining lessons learned from Earth's destruction with alien technologies reverse engineered from crashed ships and salvaged equipment. Human vessels could now slip between dimensions at will, existing just out of phase with normal spacetime. What's their status, Jake? Came Alex Stone's voice from the station's command center. 2.3 million vessels. Dreadnoughts the size of cities, carrier ships that could house entire populations, fighters that move like living things. Emma, their technology is incredible, but it's all based on brute force. They haven't even considered the possibility of dimensional manipulation. The transmission shifted to show the Keth fleets. The Confederacy is similar advanced, but conventional. Millions of ships, weapons that could crack moons, but no understanding of void physics. Finally, the view changed to Now Republic space. The Republic has the most sophisticated equipment I've ever seen outside of our own labs. But again, they're thinking in 3 dimensions. They've never imagined that space itself could be ... flexible. Marcus leaned forward. Estimated total forces? Conservative estimate? 10 million warships across all 3 empires. Each one could destroy our entire visible fleet. Jake's image smiled coldly. Good thing they can't see our real fleet. The transmission ended, leaving Emma and Marcus alone with the humming machinery. For 50 years, humanity had hidden among asteroids and forgotten worlds, playing the role of harmless refugees. The galaxy's major powers had offered them sympathy, aid, and protection, never suspecting that the humans were using every moment to prepare for this day. Show me the fleet status, Emma said. The laboratory's displays filled with data. Across human space, Ships were emerging from dimensional storage vessels built with technologies that combined human void science with alien engineering. Phase fighters that could appear anywhere in a battle instantly. Cruisers armed with weapons that fired concentrated tears in spacetime. Dreadnoughts powered by carefully controlled void generators, each one a monument to humanity's mastery over the forces that had destroyed Earth. Total active vessels? Marcus asked. 50,000 ships ready for immediate deployment. Another 100,000 in reserve. Against 10 million. Marcus shook his head. I hope our technology advantage is as great as we think it is. Emma walked to another console, where technicians were monitoring humanity's second great secret, the nanite infiltration network. For decades, human traders, diplomats, and refugees had been welcomed aboard alien ships and stations. Each visit had left behind microscopic gifts, self-replicating machines designed to integrate with alien technology and await activation. Nanite network status? Fully deployed across all three empires. We have infiltration units in their command systems, their weapons arrays, their life support networks. When we give the signal, their own technology will turn against them. It was elegant in its simplicity. The galaxy's major empires had never considered that the grateful refugees they had helped might be placing microscopic saboteurs throughout their infrastructure. The nanites were too small to detect with conventional sensors, too sophisticated to be recognized as artificial by alien security systems. A new alarm sounded. Emma looked up to see red warning lights flashing across the laboratory. What is it? Marcus was already at his console, his fingers flying over holographic controls. Long-range sensors. Multiple fleets are changing course. The main display showed galactic space, with colored dots representing the positions of major military forces. As Emma watched, 3 separate streams of ships began to converge on a single point human space. They've detected something, Marcus said quietly. All 3 empires are suspending their war preparations. They're coming for us. Emma felt her heart rate increase, but her voice remained calm. How long do we have? At current speeds? 72 hours. Maybe less. She activated the emergency communication system, sending coded signals to every human settlement in the galaxy. The message was brief, but unmistakable. The time for hiding was over. Throughout human space, families gathered in underground chambers they had never seen before. Children learned that their parents had survived the destruction of worlds. Young adults discovered that their simple tools could manipulate the fabric of reality itself. And in the depths of forgotten laboratories, technologies that had slept for 50 years began to wake. Emma looked once more at the memorial wall, at the single word that represented everything humanity had lost and everything they had become. Earth was gone, folded into dimensions beyond human understanding. But its children had survived, had learned, had grown strong in the darkness between stars. Now the galaxy's greatest empires were coming to destroy what they saw as an insignificant threat. They were about to learn why humanity had chosen to make their home on the frontier, where the boundaries between possible and impossible grew thin, and where survivors of cosmic catastrophe had spent 50 years preparing for war among the stars. The memorial wall pulsed once with soft blue light, and Emma smiled. Terra was gone, but its children were ready to dance with the void once more. Asterisk. The silent fleet the war began at precisely 040 hours, Galactic Standard Time, when the Vrex Dominion launched a surprise assault on Keth mining stations in the Andromeda Spiral. Within minutes, the galaxy erupted in violence as centuries of careful peace shattered like crystal. Commander Alex Stone watched the chaos unfold from Station Omega's command center. Holographic displays showed the scope of destruction. Entire star systems becoming battlegrounds, trade routes cut by massive fleets, colonies evacuated as dreadnoughts traded fire that could be seen from neighboring solar systems. Status report. he said. Quietly, Lieutenant Ben Reed consulted his displays. The Vrex 5th Battle Group has engaged Keth forces at the Meridian Gate. 2 million ships in active combat. The Nile Republic is moving to flank both forces with their own armada. Casualties? Estimated 60,000 ships destroyed in the first hour. The numbers are climbing exponentially. Alex nodded grimly. This was exactly what humanity had expected. The three empires were so evenly matched that their conflict would consume resources at an unprecedented rate. Ships that had taken years to build were being destroyed in minutes. Technologies that represented centuries of advancement were burning out in the void. "Perfect," said a new voice. Captain Jake Morrison entered the command center, still wearing the black environmental suit he used for reconnaissance missions. "They're so busy killing each other, they've forgotten about the minor species evacuation. All human settlements report ready," Dr. Emma Cross added, joining them from the laboratory levels. "Operation Phantom is authorized for immediate deployment." Alex walked to the main tactical display, where the galaxy spread out before him in three-dimensional glory. Red zones marked active combat areas. Yellow regions showed fleet movements. Blue dots indicated human settlements, small, seemingly insignificant, scattered across the frontier like seeds in barren soil. "Initiate Phase 1, he said simply. Throughout human space, ships that had never appeared on any sensor began to move. The Phantom fleet vessels built with technology that existed partially. Outside normal space-time slipped between dimensions like ghosts. To conventional sensors, they were invisible. To the warring empires, they didn't exist at all. Dot pilot Sam Parker led the first wave from the cockpit of his phase fighter. The ship was sleek and dark, its hull covered in crystalline matrices that bent light around it. More importantly, it existed in a state of dimensional flux that allowed it to pass through solid matter when properly tuned. "Phantom leader to all units." Sam's voice crackled over the comm system. "We are phase active and moving to target zones. Remember, we're ghosts until we choose not to be." His first target was a Vrex supply depot hidden in an asteroid field 3 sectors away. The depot serviced the Dominion's 7th Battle Group, the same fleet that Captain Morrison had been observing. Without those supplies, 2 million warships would be unable to maintain their assault on Keth positions. Sam's fighter slipped through the asteroid field like a wraith. Vrex patrol ships passed within meters of his position, their sensors detecting nothing but empty space. The depot itself was a massive structure carved into the largest asteroid, protected by defensive shields and guarded by a squadron of heavy cruisers. "Phantom 2, are you in position?" Sam whispered into his comm. "Confirmed, Phantom leader. I have the secondary depot in my sights. Phantom 3 through 8, status report. All targets acquired. We are go for synchronized strike." Sam smiled grimly. The Vrex had built their supply network to be invulnerable to conventional attack. They had never considered that an enemy might simply phase through their defenses. "Execute," he said. 8 human fighters materialized simultaneously inside the asteroid depot, their dimensional fields solidifying them back into normal spacetime. For a moment, the Vrex technicians stared in confusion at ships that had appeared from nowhere. Then Sam's weapons fired, sending concentrated void energy into the depot's central power core. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems. Away. Similar strikes occurred across Vrex space. Supply depots that had served the Dominion for centuries vanished in flashes of blue fire. Communication relays went silent. Repair facilities found their equipment fused into useless metal. And through it all, the attackers remained invisible to conventional sensors, striking from dimensions that Vrex science couldn't detect. Engineer Tom Walsh monitored the assault from Station Omega's technical center. His screens showed the deployment of humanity's second weapon nanoscale infiltration units that had been placed throughout alien infrastructure over the past 50 years. Nanite activation across Vrex space is at 60%, he reported. System failures are cascading through their fleet networks. The nanites were microscopic marvels, each one a tiny machine programmed to integrate with alien technology and await activation. When the signal came, they began their work, disrupting power couplings, introducing errors into targeting systems, causing life support failures that forced crews to abandon their posts. To the Vrex commanders, it looked like a plague of mechanical failures. Ships that had functioned perfectly for decades suddenly developed critical malfunctions. Weapon systems fired randomly or not at all. Navigation computers reported false positions. Communications arrays broadcast static instead of orders. Similar problems began affecting the Keth Confederacy. Their massive trade ships, built to haul cargo across the galaxy, found their engines failing at critical moments. Their military vessels discovered that their shields wouldn't activate or their weapons wouldn't charge. Confusion spread through their ranks as systems they had trusted for generations turned unreliable. The Nala Republic, with their sophisticated technology, fared slightly better. Their security protocols were more advanced, making nanite infiltration more difficult. But even they began reporting unusual system anomalies as the microscopic saboteurs found ways around their defenses. "Sir," Lieutenant Reed said, his voice tense with excitement, "we're receiving reports from across the galaxy. All three empires are experiencing widespread equipment failures. Their military effectiveness is dropping rapidly." Alex watched the tactical display as the Great War began to falter. Ships that should have been trading devastating firepower instead limped away for emergency repairs. Battle groups that should have been pressing their advantages instead retreated to secure positions. The conflict that was supposed to reshape the galaxy was grinding to a halt as the combatants' own equipment turned against them. "Phase 2, he said quietly. Captain Morrison activated the next stage of Operation Phantom. Across human space, larger vessels began to emerge from dimensional storage cruisers and destroyers, built with technologies that combined void science with 50 years of careful observation of alien military doctrine. These ships were no longer invisible. They were meant to be seen. The first alien fleet to encounter them was a Vrex patrol group investigating the destruction of the asteroid supply depot. When they arrived at the coordinates, they found a single human cruiser waiting for them, a vessel that shouldn't have been able to threaten their formation of 60 warships. The Vrex commander sent a standard warning: surrender immediately or be destroyed. The human ship's response was to phase out of existence for 3 seconds, then reappear directly behind the Vrex flagship. The battle lasted exactly 47 seconds. When it was over, the Vrex patrol group was gone, not destroyed, but displaced into dimensional space, where their ships would drift until their crews found a way to return to normal reality. The human cruiser remained, broadcasting a simple message across all frequencies: this territory is under human protection. Withdraw immediately. Similar encounters occurred throughout the galaxy. Alien forces that had dismissed humanity as irrelevant suddenly found themselves facing opponents who treated the laws of physics as suggestions rather than absolute rules. Status report. Alex requested. Dr. Cross consulted her displays. Phase 1 complete. 70% of alien supply networks have been compromised. Phase 2 is proceeding ahead of schedule. Enemy forces are beginning to withdraw from human-claimed territories. And the three empires' response? Confusion, mostly. They're trying to determine if we're a new faction, or if we've been allied with one of their enemies all along. Emma paused. Sir, we're also detecting increased communication traffic between the Empire leadership. They're beginning to coordinate their responses. Alex nodded. It was exactly what humanity had planned for. The three empires, faced with a common threat they couldn't understand, would eventually overcome their mutual hatred and unite against the humans. It was a predictable response, and one that humanity was prepared for. How long before they realize we're the source of their problems? Intelligence estimates 12 to 18 hours before they make the connection. Another 6 to 12 hours before they can coordinate the unified response. And their combined fleet strength? Even with the losses from equipment failures, they still command approximately 8 million functional warships. Alex smiled, and there was something in that expression that would have chilled alien observers, something that spoke of species that had survived the destruction of their homeworld and turned that catastrophe into strength. Signal all phantom units, he said. Withdraw to defensive positions. Let them come. Throughout the galaxy, human ships began to fade back into dimensional space, leaving behind only the evidence of their presence: destroyed supply depots, crippled alien vessels, and the growing certainty among three great empires that they faced an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered. The war between the Vrex, Keth, and Nal was forgotten. Now there was only one priority: the complete destruction of humanity and whatever impossible technology had allowed them to challenge the galaxy's dominant powers. Asterisk. They had no idea that what they were seeing was only the beginning. Void Dancers, the combined armada that approached human space, was the largest military force in galactic history. 10 million warships from 3 empires. Their hatred temporarily set aside in favor of a single goal: the complete annihilation of humanity and whatever impossible technology had allowed them to threaten the established order. Admiral Vrex Prime Korthik commanded the assault from his flagship Eternal Dominance, a vessel so massive it had its own gravitational field. Beside him, Admiral Keth Marshall Dizes coordinated the Confederacy's contribution from the carrier Infinite Reach. The Niel Republic's contribution was overseen by Fleet Commander Zephon aboard the dreadnought Final Answer, a ship whose weapons could reduce entire planets to component atoms. Sensor status? Korthik demanded. Nothing, sir, his tactical officer replied. Human space appears empty. No fleet formations, no defensive installations, no energy signatures above background levels. Admiral Vises appeared on the communication hologram, her insectoid features betraying confusion. Our scouts report the same findings. It's as if they simply vanished. Fleet Commander Zephon's aquatic voice rippled through the water-filled communication chamber on his ship. Perhaps they fled when they realized the magnitude of forces arrayed against them. But Korthik wasn't convinced. Intelligence reports suggested that humans possessed technology that could phase ships in and out of normal spacetime. Empty space might not be empty at all. Deploy detection grids, he ordered. Full spectrum analysis of subspace, hyperspace, and dimensional flux readings. If they're hiding, we'll find them. The massive fleet began to spread out, specialized sensor ships taking position to scan for any trace of human presence. For 6 hours, they found nothing but cosmic background radiation and the fading thermal signatures of abandoned settlements. Then reality began to tear. The first rift opened directly above the Vrex flagship, a gash in spacetime that pulsed with blue-white energy. From within that impossible wound in reality, a human dreadnought emerged, not a ship transitioning from hyperspace, but a vessel stepping sideways out of dimensions that shouldn't exist. All weapons target the Korthik's order was cut short as more rifts opened throughout the fleet formation. Human ships materialized everywhere. Cruisers appearing inside alien formations, fighters emerging from dimensional space directly behind enemy vessels, destroyers that phased into existence, already firing their impossible weapons. Commander Alex Stone stood on the bridge of the human flagship Terra's Vengeance, watching as Operation Final Dance began. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency, their instruments monitoring not just normal space, but the dimensional layers that existed parallel to reality. "Phase drives at full power," reported his navigator. "All fleet units are phase active and engaging." Through the viewports, Alex could see the battle unfolding in ways that defied conventional military doctrine. Human ships appeared and disappeared like ghosts, striking from angles that geometry said were impossible, then vanishing before the aliens could return fire. Pilot Sam Parker led a squadron of void dancers through the heart of the enemy formation. His fighter existed in a state of controlled dimensional flux, allowing it to phase through solid matter at will, while maintaining the ability to fire weapons and use sensors. "Phantom Squadron, we have target lock on the Vrex command ship," Sam announced. Beginning attack run. His fighters descended toward the Eternal Dominance like falling stars, phasing through the ship's defensive shields as if they didn't exist. The massive vessel's point defense systems fired frantically, but their energy beams passed harmlessly through targets that existed partially outside normal spacetime. Sam materialized his fighter inside the flagship's main hangar bay, his weapons already charging. Around him, 5 other void dancers appeared simultaneously, their combined firepower tearing through internal bulkheads and support structures. "Hull breach on levels 40 through 60, Sam reported calmly. Moving to secondary targets, the fighters vanished again, reappearing in the ship's engineering sections, where they began systematically destroying power conduits and reactor controls. Within minutes, the Eternal Dominance was listing badly, its lights flickering as backup systems struggled to maintain basic functions. Similar attacks occurred throughout the alien fleet. Human ships that seemed to ignore the fundamental rules of physics struck at enemy vessels from impossible positions, then faded away before retaliation was possible. But the aliens' greatest shock came when Dr. Emma Cross activated humanity's most dangerous creation from deep within Station Omega's hidden laboratories. "Void bomb deployment authorized," she announced, her voice carrying across the secure channels that connected all human vessels. "All units maintain minimum safe distance from detonation zones." The first void bomb materialized in the center of the Keth formation, not a weapon launched from a ship, but a device that phased directly into normal space from dimensional storage. For a moment, it hung motionless among the alien vessels, a sphere of crystalline material that pulsed with contained energy. Then it detonated. The explosion wasn't visible in conventional terms. Instead, reality simply ceased to exist in the expanding sphere around the detonation point. Space-time itself unraveled, creating a growing void that consumed everything it touched, not destroying matter, but erasing it from existence entirely. Keth warships that had survived battles across 1,000 worlds simply vanished as the expanding nothingness reached them. Their hulls, their crews, their very atoms were unmade as the fundamental structure of space-time collapsed inward. "Report," Alex said calmly, watching the tactical display as a significant portion of the enemy fleet simply disappeared. "Void bomb, 1 successful detonation. Estimated enemy losses, 400,000 vessels. The expansion is stabilizing at projected parameters." Fleet Commander Zephon stared at his sensors in disbelief. Nearly 500,000 ships had simply ceased to exist, consumed by an expanding zone of absolute nothingness that his instruments couldn't even properly detect. "What kind of weapon can unmake reality itself?" he whispered. Admiral Theises was frantically ordering her remaining ships to retreat from the void zone. "This is impossible. Matter cannot simply cease to exist." But Korthik, studying the tactical data from his crippled flagship, was beginning to understand. The humans weren't just using advanced technology. They were manipulating the fundamental forces that held the universe together. "Sir," his science officer reported, his voice shaking. "Analysis of the weapon's effects suggests controlled unraveling of space-time structure. It's as if they're editing reality." A second void bomb materialized in the null formation. This time, Fleet Commander Zephan ordered immediate dispersal, but the weapon's effects were too widespread. Another 300,000 ships vanished into expanding nothingness, their matter and energy simply deleted from existence. Through it all, human ships continued their impossible dance through dimensions, appearing wherever they were least expected, striking with weapons that seemed to tear holes in space itself. Captain Jake Morrison led a squadron of human destroyers in a direct assault on the remaining Rex vessels. His ships phased in and out of normal space like dancers moving between worlds, their weapons firing concentrated streams of void energy that didn't just destroy enemy hulls, but displaced them into dimensional space where they would drift helplessly until their crews found a way to return. "This isn't warfare," one of his officers observed. "This is like fighting the laws of physics themselves." "That's exactly what it is," Jake replied. "The aliens build their weapons to destroy matter and energy. We've learned to manipulate the framework that matter and energy exist within." The tide of battle had turned completely. What had begun as the galaxy's largest military operation was becoming a rout as alien ships fled from enemies that treated reality as a variable rather than a constant. Admiral Korthik, his flagship listing badly and his fleet in full retreat, sent a desperate transmission to his remaining forces. "All units, full withdrawal. Maintain maximum distance from human vessels. We're not fighting ships, we're fighting forces beyond our understanding." But even retreat offered no safety. Human void dancers pursued the fleeing aliens through dimensional space, appearing behind their formations, striking at their engines and navigation systems, and vanishing before return fire was possible. By the end of the first day of battle, the combined alien armada had been reduced to fewer than 2 million functional vessels, loss rate that staggered the military leaders of 3 empires. As the surviving alien ships limped away from human space, Commander Alex Stone stood once more before the viewport in Station Omega's command center. The dying red star pulsed with its ancient rhythm, casting everything in shades of crimson and shadow. "Casualty report," he said quietly. "Human losses. 17 ships destroyed, 43 damaged. Alien losses. 8.3 million vessels destroyed or displaced." Alex nodded slowly. The numbers were almost beyond comprehension. Humanity had faced the galaxy's greatest military force, and not only survived, but achieved complete victory. "Sir," Dr. Cross said, joining him at the viewport, "we are receiving surrender offers from all 3 Empire leadership councils. They're requesting negotiation for terms."